27-year-old schoolteacher loved by all her students, faculty, family, and friends. A woman that had so much life left before her prior to that horrifying day in January of 2011. Ellen Greenberg was in the process of making herself a fruit salad when her life abruptly ended. She was stabbed 20 times, the final blow going straight into her heart. Police would ultimately declare her death as self-inflicted, but was it? This is the absolutely baffling case of 27-year-old Ellen Rae Greenberg. Welcome to The Cellar. Ellen Rae Greenberg was born in New York City on June 23, 1983. Ellen would earn a degree in communications from Penn State University. She would earn her teaching credentials from Temple University and would ultimately become a first-grade teacher at Juniata Park Academy in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Ellen loved teaching, but as with any job, it did have its downsides. Long hours and constant stress would later weigh on Ellen. The anxiety Ellen was under would continue to grow with time, eventually leading to her speaking with her parents. Her parents later stated that she had expressed a desire to move back home. She was currently engaged and in the midst of planning her wedding, something that can also be extremely stressful in its own right. Her parents inquired into what exactly was bothering Ellen, and she would assure them that her anxiety had nothing to do with her personal life. It was all in relation to the stress she was under as a teacher. Ellen and her fiancé, Samuel Goldberg, had been together for around 3 years. Samuel was a 28-year-old television producer. From early reports in the story, Ellen and Samuel had a good relationship. Ellen's parents ultimately trusted their daughter, and she had never expressed anything negative within their relationship. But Ellen's parents were concerned with the stress and anxiety their daughter was under. They did not want her to throw her job and career opportunities away by moving back home in a rash decision. So her parents ended up convincing Ellen to see someone about her anxiety. According to reports, she had been seen a handful of times and had been prescribed a low dose of Xanax as well as Ambien and Klonopin. At no point did Ellen's therapist see her as being a danger to herself or others. She was never viewed as anything more than just a stressed out teacher, something that's all too common in today's day and age. And that now brings us to January 26, 2011. Ellen would wake and get ready to go to work like she had done numerous times prior. She would arrive at school and begin her day teaching her class of first graders. As the morning progressed, a blizzard would end up coming through the city of Philadelphia, covering everything in a thick sheet of white powder. The rest of the school day would end up being canceled, and staff and students would be sent home early. Ellen was ultimately relieved and excited for the extra time she would have away from work. She would begin her trip home, first stopping at a gas station and filling up her car. Ellen would leave the gas station and arrive home, meeting up with her fiancé and proceeding to spend the afternoon together. At 2:30 p.m., Ellen would make a phone call to a restaurant called Vetri. It's unclear if she was confirming, making, or canceling a reservation at the time. At 3:47 p.m., Ellen would send a final text from her phone. The details of this text have remained confidential. At 4:46 p.m., there was some activity on Ellen's computer. Exactly what that activity was has also remained confidential. At 4:50 p.m., Ellen's fiancé Sam would enter the gym that is located on the first floor of the Venice Loft Apartments, the apartments where he and Ellen resided on the 6th floor. At 5:26 p.m., Sam would exit the gym after working out for about 36 minutes. Sam would then place a phone call at 6:14 p.m. and receive a phone call at 6:26 p.m. We will dive into those phone calls a bit later on in the video. Now, according to Sam Goldberg, he would return to the couple's apartment after his workout. Based on the timeline, it would be presumed that this was around 5:30 p.m. According to Sam, he would attempt to enter the apartment, but upon opening the door, it would catch on the swing bar lock on the inside. After calling out to Ellen, Sam would then send a handful of texts to his fiancée. Hello. Open the door. What are you doing? I'm getting pissed. Hello? You better have an excuse. What the fuck? Ah, you have no idea. The text would start at 5:32 p.m. and come to an end at 5:54 p.m. According to Sam, he would head downstairs and speak to a security guard about getting the door to the apartment open. Sam would later tell the police that the security guard would eventually accompany him upstairs and to the couple's apartment. It is around 6:30 that Sam would force his way into the apartment. He would enter looking for his fiancée, and he would eventually locate Ellen's body resting in the corner of the kitchen on the floor. She was in between the oven and the sink, with her upper body in a slouched state against the kitchen cupboards. Ellen wasn't moving, and she was completely covered in blood. Sam would soon place the following 911 call.
Help, I need a murder now. I just walked to my apartment. My fiance's on the floor with blood everywhere.
What is the address?
4601 Flat Rock Road. Please come help now.
4601
Flat Rock Road.
Is this a house or apartment?
Oh no. Oh no. It's an apartment.
What apartment number?
Please hurry, please.
Where is she bleeding from?
I don't know. I can't tell.
So you have to calm yourself down in order to get you some help.
I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm looking at her right now. I can't see anything. There's nothing broken. She's bleeding. Ellie!
You don't know where she's bleeding from? Can't tell where the blood's coming from?
I think her head. I think she hit her head, But it's everywhere.
Okay,
it's everywhere.
She might have fallen. Do you know what happened?
She may have slipped. There's blood on the table. Her face is a little purple.
Okay, hold on for rescue for her. Stay on the phone.
Philadelphia Fire Department 842. What's the address? No,
4601 Flat Rock Road. Please hurry.
4601 Flat Rock?
Yes.
What's wrong?
I went downstairs to go work out. I came back up. The door was latched. My fiance's inside. She wasn't answering. So after about a half hour, I decided to break it down. I see her now just on the floor with blood. She's not responding.
Okay, is she breathing? Look at her chest. I need you to calm down, and I need you to look at her chest. It's really.
I really don't think she is.
Listen to me. Someone's on the way. Look at her chest. Is she flat on her back?
She's on her back. So I bring her.
Look at her chest and tell me if it's going up and down, up and down.
I don't see her moving.
Okay. Do you know how to do CPR?
I don't.
Okay. I'll tell you what to do. Okay, until they get there. I want you to keep her flat on her.
God.
Hello.
Yeah, hi, okay.
Are you willing to do CPR with me over the phone until they get there?
I have to, right?
Okay, so get her flat on her back, bare her chest, okay? You want to rip her shirt off. Okay? Kneel down by her side.
Oh, my God. Ellie, please.
Listen, you can't freak out, sir, because you
Okay, I'm trying not to. Her shirt won't come off. It's a zipper. Oh, my God. She stabbed herself.
Where?
She fell with a knife. Oh, no, her knife's sticking out.
Her what?
There's a knife sticking out of her heart.
Oh, she stabbed herself?
I guess so. I don't know where she fell on it. I don't know.
Okay, well, don't touch it.
Okay, so I just let her down. Here now? I mean, what do I do?
No, I mean, you can't. If the knife is in her chest, it's going to be kind of hard for you to do CPR at this time.
Oh, no. Oh, my goodness. Okay.
Police, which operator?
277.
Is someone coming here?
Yes, they are. You said 4601 Flat Rock, right?
Yes.
Okay, someone's on the way.
The 911 call would come to an end at around 6:33 p.m. Those first responders would do what they could for Ellen, but it was apparent rather quick that she was gone. The knife plunged straight into her heart had taken her life. Ellen Greenberg would be pronounced deceased at 6:40 p.m. Now, before we head forward, I want to backtrack a little bit to the 2 phone calls that Sam placed before breaking into his apartment and dialing 911. The first phone call was to his cousin, Damian Schwartzman. The follow-up call he received was from his uncle, James Schwartzman. Now, you may ask why that's important. Well, Sam's cousin, Camian, was an up-and-coming lawyer at the time. Camian's father would then call Sam back. His name is James Schwartzman, and he was a powerful political attorney at the time, and he is now a judge in the state of Pennsylvania. The fact that Sam called 2 relatives who happen to be powerful lawyers with powerful connections has raised a lot of eyebrows and questions within this case. Now, It could be as simple as he wanted to know the legalities behind breaking down his own door, or it could have been for far more nefarious reasons. I want to make it clear, these are just ideas that have been tossed around within this case. Another piece of information in this case is the fact that Camion showed up at the apartment complex around the same time the police arrived. Now, I've seen it reported that he showed up at 6:39 p.m. and that the police arrived minutes later, but I've also found records that the police showed up at 6:36 p.m. and I've seen it reported that they showed up at close to 6:40. Another piece of information that I've also seen reported is that Camion arrived at 6:34 p.m., just 1 minute after the 911 call. Either way, it appears Camion Schwartzman arrived before police did to the scene of the crime. It also appears that any conversations Sam had with the police department at the time were with his lawyer already present. It begs the question, why did Sam have Camion come to the apartment complex? At the time he had last spoken to Camion, according to Sam, he had not entered the apartment nor found his fiancée as of yet. Moving on, another piece of information in this case that is suspicious is the lie that Sam told the police at the scene. According to Sam, he had the security guard at the apartment complex escort him to his apartment to break the door down. This gave Sam an alibi to his whereabouts, as well as someone who could verify that the door was indeed locked from the inside. According to the original police documents, this detail indeed affected the way the police viewed the crime scene and case at the time. But it was later proven that the security guard did not ever go up to Sam and Ellen's apartment. According to policy, he was not allowed to break down their door. So all the security guard did was call Ellen twice before Sam left and proceeded to break into his own apartment on his own. This falsity has led many to believe that Sam may have a lot more to hide within this case, but we will dive more into that later. Now let's go ahead and dive into the crime scene. Police would speak with Sam at the crime scene as well as back at the station. According to Sam, Ellen had to have ended her own life while he was at the gym. There was no other scenario he believed could be true. Based on Ellen's anxiety and medication usage, as well as Sam's thoughts, the police were quick to believe Ellen did this to herself. The investigation of Ellen's apartment showed nothing had been stolen. Also, the couple lived on the 6th floor, and there was only one way in and out of the apartment, aside from a door that led to a small ledge and lookout. That ledge was so small that only Spider-Man himself could have scaled it. Also, with the snow coming down that day, no footprints or signs that the ledge or door had been accessed by an intruder would be found. Now, there were some signs of forced entry on the lock of the door to the apartment, but if you're to believe Sam's account of what happened, it's believed that this damage simply occurred when Sam forced his way into the apartment. But many question whether or not the door had been locked from the inside by Ellen at all, or if Sam himself had manipulated the lock to make it look and appear like a forced entry. Now, I want to make it clear that Sam has never been charged with anything in this case. These are all simply thoughts and ideas that I have had based on the evidence I have looked through. Continuing on, Ellen's arms also showed no defensive wounds whatsoever. With this initial information gathered, the police would far too quickly rule Ellen's death as self-inflicted. They believed that she locked herself in and simply plunged a steak knife into her heart. The handle of the blade would be forensically tested and would come back with only Ellen's DNA on it. All this information led the police to quickly believe that Ellen had been stressed out and ultimately decided she didn't want to live any longer. It seemed the police quickly wanted to close this case, but is that what really happened? It's not what I believe happened, so let's dive into the autopsy results. Dr. Marlon Osborne, the Philadelphia medical examiner, would perform the autopsy the following day. His initial conclusions are alarming, to say the least. The most frightening realization was that Ellen didn't have one stab wound. She had 20. 10 were located in the back of her neck, 1 in her stomach, 1 located in her scalp, and 8 were in her chest. How could someone do this to themselves? There were also numerous bruises found all over Ellen's body. How did she get these bruises is a question we simply don't have a clear answer to. Now, I want to point out another detail in this case. At least one wound in Ellen's neck could have potentially caused paralysis, making it impossible for her to deliver the rest of the blows to herself. This detail has been debated, with some reports detailing that this blow is believed to have actually happened after Ellen was already deceased. Either way, these particular wounds open up far more questions than answers. Now, is it possible for someone to take a knife to themselves? 100% it is. But typically in cases where self-infliction occurs, people don't usually do it more than a few times. Usually the first or second blow is enough, and anything further is just excruciatingly painful, to say the least. So the idea that Ellen did this to herself 20 times seems absolutely baffling. Now, I'm not a medical examiner, I'm just someone who researches and gives my thoughts on cases. But do I believe Ellen did this to herself? No. Just no way do I believe it. Maybe if the wounds were only located on her chest, but the idea that she also did that to the back of her neck, as well as the one stab wound to the stomach, it would have been excruciatingly painful, and there are much simpler ways for one to end their being. Now, Dr. Osborne's initial findings led him to believe that Ellen's case was indeed a homicide. He initially did not see it any other way. But then, a month and a half later, he was approached by the Philly Police Department, the DA's office, and the chief medical examiner. When they met with Dr. Osborne, they requested that he overturn his initial findings and rule the COD as self-inflicted. Under great pressure, Dr. Osborne changed his ruling as he was told. In his new findings, he concluded that the blow to the neck that may have initially paralyzed Ellen may have actually only numbed her, making it so that she could then proceed with more blows while not feeling any pain. With Dr. Osborne's report now changed, the police were able to rule Ellen's case as closed. A crime in and of itself, if you ask me. Following this ruling, Ellen's family were quick to hire their own team to investigate what really happened to their daughter. They simply could not believe that she had done this to herself. One finding that was made by a neuropathologist that the family hired involved the puncture in Ellen's neck. She found that there was no hemorrhaging around the spine at all, which would mean that when the wound was made, Ellen no longer had a pulse. If Ellen was already gone, then how could she have struck herself in the neck and still managed to strike herself in the heart afterwards? Ellen's family would also hire a company that reconstructed all 20 of the wounds she had suffered. Based on their findings, they believed there was no way they could have been self-inflicted. They were very confident that an assailant had to have done this to her. Every step of the way, Ellen's family received answers that did not line up with the police's ultimate rulings on the case. After spending tons of their own money on experts, Ellen's family were left confident that their daughter did not do this to herself. So why were the police so determined to rule this case as self-inflicted and put it all to bed? Was Ellen's case an example of a major cover-up? If so, did it have to do with Sam and his powerful family connections? Or could there have been an unknown assailant that did this to Ellen? Now, based on the police's initial findings, the crime scene would end up being cleaned up the very next day. Also, that very next day, James Schwartzman requested access to Ellen and Sam's apartment in order to get a suit for Sam to attend the funeral. According to reports, a suit was not the only thing removed from the apartment, as Ellen's laptop, as well as cell phones and other items were all taken at the time. The crime scene was then cleaned up that very same day, prior to Dr. Osborne's initial autopsy reports being released. His initial findings would lead the police to get a search warrant to go back into the apartment, but by the time they went back into the apartment, it had already been cleaned, and they did not get the cell phones or the laptop from Mr. Schwartzman until the following day, on January 29th, meaning that any possible evidence could have already been wiped away before the police had it in their custody. To add to the suspicions, why did Sam call his powerful uncle and cousin before he supposedly found his fiancée? And why did his cousin show up at the apartment when he did? Why did Sam lie about the security officer going with him to his apartment when he went to break down the door? Was the door really locked from the inside, or was it just made to look that way? Why was the scene of the crime released so quickly and then cleaned before autopsy results were even had? Why was the police so quick to rule Ellen's case as self-inflicted when it was clear on initial autopsy findings that it wasn't? Why was Dr. Osborne pressured into changing his report weeks and weeks after his initial findings had been made? Now, I'm a believer in Occam's razor. The simplest answer is typically the correct one in most cases. Far often when someone's life is claimed in a case like this, the significant other had something to do with it. Not always, but quite often. Now, the idea that an unknown assailant did this is something I want to look at briefly. Could someone have done this in the short amount of time that Sam went to the gym to work out? It's possible, but doesn't seem very probable. One piece of evidence I want to point to is Ellen having 0 defensive wounds. Now, if someone else had done this to her, you would think that she would have fought back and there would have been some form of a defensive wound on her body. So why aren't there any? Well, my thought on this is if she didn't see it coming, and the only person that was with her at the time was someone she trusted endlessly, well, you probably see my point there. If someone got the jump on her, she could have been taken down quickly before she even had a chance to react. My gut tells me that that is what happened in this case. Another bizarre piece of this case has to do with the 911 call. As you heard, many listen to this call and say that Ellen's fiancé Sam is doing a terrible job acting. Now, I like to give people the benefit of the doubt in cases like this, as people have been known to react in bizarre ways under stressful scenarios like the one Sam was in. The bizarre thing for me was that Sam didn't notice the large blade sticking out of Ellen's chest until he went to perform CPR. Based on the call, he made it sound as if Ellen's shirt was somehow covering the knife handle and he didn't notice until he unzipped her shirt. Based on all the evidence, it's a bit bizarre that he didn't notice anything protruding from her chest right off the bat. You would think that would be the first thing he would notice. Also, if the shirt was zipped over the knife, how did that happen? How could Ellen have struck herself 20 times, including a final blow to the heart, and then what? She zipped her shirt up over the blade before she passed on? It just makes 0 logical sense. Also, why was Sam's initial reaction in the 911 call to be that Ellen did this to herself? If you walk into your apartment and find your loved one bleeding on the kitchen floor with a knife in their chest, would your first reaction be that they did this to themselves? I struggle with that greatly. Add to all of this the aggressive text that Sam sent Ellen when he allegedly couldn't get into the apartment. Texts like, "I'm getting pissed," "You better have an excuse," and "You have no idea," all feel like red flags. Could Ellen's relationship have been darker than what it appeared on the outside? This is all speculative on my behalf, but did Sam send these texts so they appeared like he had messaged her in the past? And if he did message her like this before, was their relationship one based on love and trust, or abuse and manipulation? At the end of the day, Ellen Greenberg's case appears to have been fumbled from the get-go. The police came to a conclusion far too early, and evidence wasn't collected that should have been. They allowed the crime scene and evidence to be tampered with before the autopsy had even been performed. As far as I'm concerned, Ellen Greenberg was failed right off the bat. On one hand, you could view it as terrible police work, and that they did all they could to make the case fit the original narrative and conclusion they had come up with. But at worst, there was a cover-up in this case. Now, I myself enjoy a good conspiracy theory, but most of the time the truth is very simple. But in this case, I think it's easier to say that a potential cover-up is what may have actually occurred. It wouldn't be the first, nor the last time something like that has been done. In conclusion, I think Ellen's case should be reopened by the police department and properly investigated to its fullest extent. There's too much potential evidence and findings that point to someone else committing this crime, not Ellen herself. I sympathize with Ellen's family, as they have spent years trying to fight for justice for their daughter, and they have been stopped every step of the way. In 2024, a positive update did occur in this case, as the Pennsylvania Supreme Court agreed to take Ellen's case on. They will now hear arguments from Ellen's family as to why the case should be reopened and re-investigated. I just hope the Supreme Court does the right thing so justice can finally be had for Ellen Greenberg. Now, I ask you all what your thoughts are on this case. Do you believe the police's original findings that Ellen did this all to herself? Or do you believe someone else took Ellen's life that fateful day in January of 2011? Let me know in the comment section below your thoughts, and please, if you enjoy what I do here on the channel, consider hitting that like button and subscribing. I greatly appreciate the support. And as always, my condolences go out to all of Ellen's family and friends. If you want to dive further into this case, a man named Gavin Fish has done an unbelievable job of compiling all the evidence and painstakingly going into every detail within this case. He has a YouTube channel and a website, gavinfish.com, where you can dive into this case even further if you would like. I highly recommend it. Thank you for tuning in to another episode. If you enjoy the content, please hit that like and subscribe button. It helps the channel continue to grow. Also, if you want to make sure you don't ever miss a new upload, you can turn on the bell notification after you subscribe. In the description box below, you will find a link to my merch store and a link to the Cellar Dwellers membership tier for the channel. If you're interested, please take a moment to go check those things out. If you'd like to submit your own scary story or any kind of story recommendation, you can do so using the email linked in the description box below. As always, I do all the research, writing, recording, and editing for the channel myself, so anything you do to support the channel is greatly appreciated. Until next time, I will see you all again as we head back into the cellar.